I'm going to show you a few things on here, and then we're going to get started with the first assignment. So first of all, you don't need to be anywhere else but home on mine. You don't need to do any of the categories on the side. Just always go from the home spot. In the announcements, I will always have what's due coming up. And then also the Zoom links, because they'll get buried as we go through the trimester. Okay. You guys are a hybrid class. So when we are back in the classroom, when you are, it's not your cohort, so you're at home, you can always feel free to Zoom in to class and ask me a question. Okay. Even though I'll have students in the room, you'll just need to, it beeps when you want to come in. So you'll just need to kind of be patient, and I'll get over to push the computer to let you in. But I put the time, so you guys are 1:43 to 2:26. Okay. So 1:43 is when I was letting the 5th hour kids out because I lost track of time. So that is the link. Okay. The other thing that you want to know about on these Zoom links is while we are online, these are the makeup times, Monday and Wednesday from 1 to 2, and then Thursday from 11 to 12. And that's the link. It's a different link than any of the other ones. And then here, this one is voluntary. There's Pictionary, which again is a totally separate link. Tuesdays and Fridays. Okay, totally optional. On Pictionary. If you have a 0, once I start putting in grades, you must come to the makeup times. Okay. And these are only when we are online fully for you guys. Let me double check. I think I have someone. Thanks, Philip, for changing that. Oh, good. He took off. I had a 7th grader show up. Okay. Let me go back to home. And what I want you to do is you're going to open up week 1. Oh, wait. First, I'm going to show you this. Okay. This was similar to last year. Those of you that had me last year, I'll have the daily slides in here. And I'll have links that help you out. So this is, it's going to go backwards. So next week, there'll be another slide and as number 1, and then this one will be number 2. Okay, so if you ever have to do makeup work, you'll be able to click here and go backwards to the date that you missed. Okay. I tried something new this trimester. If you click on this, it's supposed to take you right to Canvas. So you'd be able to open up your principles of art. Okay, so especially later on when you're making up work. And then here's the examples of what you're going to make for the assignment. The examples technically are of what the elective is doing, but it's the same project. It's just a different subject. So I'm going to click back to home. So all of the rest of this stuff is down here. Okay, it's Zoom links, but that's going to get buried. If you want to hear a bio or read a bio about me or read the syllabus or whatever, you can do that later. But last year I showed you guys some photos. Here's my dog again, but she's sleeping next to me, so I'll show her. These are my kids now. They're so big. She's a freshman at Iowa. Lizzie is. Rocco is 8, and he's 5 feet tall. This is Jack and Matisse. Matisse is taller than me now. He's 6 foot. And they're both sophomores at City High. Jack took this picture, even though he's in the frame. He like set it up, told us where to sit, and then had his camera on a timer, which is pretty cool. What I want you to do though is so I'm going to skip all this stuff. You can read it if you want, but we're going to move on. Okay. The stuff at the bottom. Open up week 1, Principles of Art. Okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to show you this, the Principles of Art videos. What's going to happen is I'll show you this video here if we have time at the end, but otherwise you should take a look. His work is amazing. You're going to see some of it today. Here's a video about the principles of art, talking about just what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to post the video of the presentation later, what I'm doing right now, okay? And then tomorrow or Thursday evening, I'll post that video here in case you need to go back and because you missed something, okay? But right now you should have open the week 1 principles of art, okay? This is that video that's by someone else. So if you missed something, you can go back and watch that too. This is the link to the presentation that I'm going to show you. You can open that and follow along, or you can just follow along on my screen and then be able to take notes on your screen. Okay. So what's going to happen is each assignment, you're going to have a sheet that you fill out. Okay. I'm going to have you do some stuff during the presentation. Okay. Sometimes it's taking notes. Sometimes it might be a little bit of drawing or whatever. Okay. But that's like free points. Okay. If you just do it, that's points, right? But then also it's going to help you then do your assignment. So today's, it's going to help you know what the principles of art are so that then you can do the assignment. Okay. So first you'll write in a principle of art, and then you're going to provide an example. Okay. So it could be the example that we look at. It could be that you think of a different example. Okay. What you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up either pulling off the internet images or going around your house or your backyard or whatever and photographing each element of art, and then you're going to put it together in either a digital collage or a list. Okay. So you're going to write in the principle and then write an example for right now. Any questions right now? Okay. So we are going to look at the artwork of Titus Kaphar, while we're looking at these principles of art. Okay. And then if we have time at the end, I'll show the video. He's an absolute phenomenal artist. And what he's doing, he's African American, and what he is doing is trying to change how we view history and how we view different things that have happened. So not just from colonial times, but that's where this is from. This is set, but even more modern times of how we view African Americans. Okay. Oftentimes, in like the slave time, even Jefferson and Washington, things like that, they had slaves, but then they also, they were like the wet nurses, which means that they fed the babies. Okay. Even though they weren't allowed to use the same bathroom, they were feeding the babies. Okay. They, were in charge of doing all the cooking. They essentially were like the moms and dads taking care of the white people. So he's trying to make sure that, trying to change how that's all being viewed in history, okay, instead of being covered up. So the first element of art that we're looking at is rhythm, okay? So last year, you looked at the elements of art, okay, that like line, shape, value, scale, all of those things, okay? Now this would be taking the elements of art and what are you going to do with it then? Okay. So rhythm is the first principle of art. It's the repetition of elements of art and pattern. Okay. So here it's the lines that are repeated to create a pattern. Okay. It's the lines on her dress, then the lines on this suit. Okay. That shows rhythm in the work. Okay. There's no pattern in this painting behind me, right? There's no repeated thing. It's just sort of scattered. Okay, so there's no rhythm in this painting, but there is in this one. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Emphasis is the second principle of art. When one part of the artwork stands out against the rest. So which part of the artwork is standing out to you? You can unmute yourself or write it in chat. Yeah, the woman. The lady in white. Mm-hmm. Because she's the brightest thing on the page, right? Okay, but he's trying to mute her, but by doing that, then she becomes emphasized, and we see the contrast there, okay? And then he's called this the failed attempt at sincerity. Okay, so trying to like hug the little girl, okay, but still the one getting all the attention, okay? So emphasis, making one part stands out from the rest. So the painting behind me, what do you think in that has the emphasis? Yeah, the flowers, because again, they're the brightest thing in it. The whole painting is pretty bright, but the flowers are the focal point and then also the brightest thing. He also does this really cool thing in his work a lot where sections are just cut out. Okay, so if you were at a museum and you saw this work, theoretically, you could stick your hand back and touch that wall. Okay, but you would get into so much trouble and probably get tackled and definitely get kicked out for doing that. So don't do that. But that's not just painted to look like that. There are two holes in this painting. Okay. So balance is the next one. Balance is the artwork weighs the same visually. Okay. And by that, there can be 3 different kinds of balance. Okay. It could be symmetrical, where it's the same weight on each side. Okay. It could be asymmetrical, where it looks like one side is heavier than the other, has more stuff on it. Okay. Or it could be radial, which means that it's balanced in a circular way. So like the yin yang symbol, it actually is a circle, but if you look at the actual shapes, it's balanced around the center. Or a mandala is radial symmetry. So what is this an example of? Which kind of texture, or sorry, which kind of balance? And remember, we're looking at the actual, like the stuff in it, not the drawing itself, like the weight of the stuff. Asymmetrical. Yep. Ainsley says asymmetrical. Do you guys agree? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I could make an argument for asymmetrical or symmetrical. It's definitely not radial. Okay. It would be totally symmetrical if the kid on the right, as we're looking at it, was standing up. Okay. Then it would be symmetrical balance, right? Because it would be the same on both sides. Okay. But these flowers back here are why it makes me say that you could make an argument for both. Because that's detail. If that was open space. Good job. So sometimes things aren't totally clear cut. Unity is the next principle of art. A sense of oneness in the artwork. Everything belongs together. Okay. So what does that mean? A sense of oneness in the artwork. Everything belongs together. How does this painting called Sacrifice show unity? You can unmute yourself or type in chat. How does this show unity? Anybody have a guess? Okay. So if I was going to say, so a lot of these things now, it's not as clear cut as the elements are. Okay. So it's more you saying what you think. Okay. Instead of this is the right way. So there's line is everything, right? Shape is just not shaded, right? Form is shaded. Okay. So it's more clear cut. But with these, with the principles of art, this is where it gets kind of squishy. Okay. So I'll start off by saying I think it's unity. Okay. Because it's not a clear cut right or wrong answer, right? So I think it shows unity because of the style being the same on this figure and the rest of the painting over here. Okay. That it shows unity because this is a puzzle piece sort of this space here. Okay. So that's why I think it shows unity. Does anyone have another example for this one? That's okay. We can move on. Remember, every artwork has a story that it's telling. Okay. And it just depends on what kind of story that the artist wants to tell, and then also your point of view that you're looking at it from. Okay. Sometimes, like in mine here, it's just telling a story of there's some magnolias because I like magnolias, but it's just abstract. So that's all. There's no more story than that. Okay. Sometimes the story, like Kafar's work, gets pretty layered and deep depending on which work you're looking at. So the next principle is movement. So it creates the illusion of action or change. Okay. So if you think of like Keith Haring's work where he's got the little lines around the people to show motion and movement, okay, it could be as like simplified as that, okay, or more complex like Kafar's work. So how is there movement in the Behind the Myth of Benevolence painting? Does anyone have an idea what part is showing movement? Oh, yeah, the white swirls over here, right, Philip? Yeah, in the Yet Another Fight for Remembrance. So let's switch to that one. We'll do the other one in a minute. So this one, does it look like these people are just statues standing there? No, right. And that's why Philip said the white swirls. They are like frantic, okay? And he accomplished that because of this like frantic brushstrokes, right? This is his style, right? He can paint super hyper realistically, okay? But he did these lines for a reason and to show movement here, okay? And also to show like the franticness of this kind of situation, okay? They're definitely not standing in a museum right now or at a golf match, okay? This is chaotic and frantic. And then over here, Ainsley said that it's showing movement because she's looking from behind the curtain, okay? the curtain of this dead white guy. I'm sure I'm supposed to know who the dead white guy is, but I don't. I'm guessing that this is one of the founding fathers, and then that's supposed to be one of his slaves that he slept with, because it looks like she doesn't have any clothes on. Okay, so this could be showing the phrase like behind every good man there's a good woman. Okay, because she's behind him. It could be, you know, he was hiding her, and now the painting has fallen away. Okay, so the fact that, like Ainsley said, that she's peeking out, okay, that means there's movement there. Okay, she can't peek out unless there's some place to peek out from. So the painting that's fallen down then is the movement and her peeking. Yeah. So that means that Titus Kaphar made 2 paintings to get 1 painting. Okay, so he painted this one and it's attached. So this is a 3-dimensional work to this second painting. Okay, so movement, it creates the illusion of action or change. Okay, so for this one, there's a couple of different things you could do for your assignment. If you're going to do, if you're going to photograph, you could do something like every time I try to take a picture of my dog, see right now, see how she's like super calm. She's just laying there like she's so cute. But if I try to take a picture of her cuteness, usually she moves really fast. So all I get is a blur. Okay, so that blur would show the movement. Does that make sense? You could also, there's lots of things that you could do for that, but they would be slightly different techniques than like in a painting or a drawing. So the next element of art is harmony. Harmony creates unity by stressing similarities between different parts of the artwork. Okay. So that means like you're not all of a sudden using a fluorescent green on this tree, because that wouldn't make sense. Okay. You're not all of a sudden having a spaceship instead of a realistic car, because that wouldn't make sense. Okay. It all fits together with the mood and the style and the subject of the painting. Okay. Now, if this was surrealism, then yeah, you could do that. You could have the spaceship back there. You could have the fluorescent green. You could do, but it would be then unified under surrealism. It wouldn't work in what he's got going on here, though. Okay. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Variety. This is concerned with the difference or contrast in the artwork. Concerned with the difference or contrast in the artwork. So this is called Columbus Day. Okay. So what he's got here is this is supposed to be Columbus. He's the guy with the great legs. Okay. His people, his friends that came with him, or the people he paid, whatever, to come with him, are there, and they are now conquering the United States. Okay. So he's contrasted that. He's covered them up with sheets and stuff to make them like contrasted with the painted background. Okay. To make that so that they stand out, so that we think about it instead of just go, oh, that's a nice painting. Okay. So he's added that variety of texture to make that point and make you stop and think. Okay. What would be the variety in this painting? What's the contrast here? Oh, I can't see my chat window. Does anyone have an idea? Remember, these are just putting forth your ideas. There's no right or wrong. Yeah, the contrasting colors is one. So like having these two not, if she would have had an orange shirt on, it would have blended in more. Orange pants on, it would have blended in more. What about the contrast between painted and missing? There's that too. And that also might be what you meant, Philip, by the contrasting colors. Okay. There's no detail here because it's simply gone. Okay. So that is also variety. Here's another principle. It's weird that some of the principles they're using the other ones in their definition. Okay. But this one is contrast. Okay. And I kind of just talked about it, I guess, in the last one too, for variety. Used for creating a focal point. So kind of like, I think it was emphasis, where the white painted figure was where your eye was drawn to. On this one, your eye is drawn to where the baby's missing. Okay. This is a separate painting called analogous colors. Okay. Which analogous colors are like part of the color wheel and color theory that we don't really need to get into. But the image of this painting, though, and what we're seeing here is the cover of Time magazine. They used this for after George Floyd was killed as their cover. And then Titus Kaphar actually wrote an article in it. And George Floyd's mother said that this was like the only representation that she can think of to symbolize how she felt after he was killed, because her baby was just gone. Even though he's an adult, like, her baby was just gone. Okay. So the contrast there of the mother and then the empty space. Okay. So you should right now have all 8 principles filled in and then an example. Okay. We're going to talk more about this on Thursday. But I want to show you real quick what your assignment is going to be. This is all digital. Once we get back into the classroom, we'll do more paperwork where you will, I'll be able to pack up supplies, send home with you, paints, things like that. But for right now, it could be, and even then, it could be digital. This one is just all digital, but all the other assignments, you'll have the option of digital or like any other medium. Okay. But for this one, you're going to either pull photographs off the internet and create this collage or list, or you're going to take photographs around your place. Okay. Or you could do some kind of combination of the two. So here's an example of a collage, and the link for the example is at the bottom of your sheet. And the examples that I have for you are just with the elements of art, okay, that students did last trimester. But you're going to do the principles of art, so you'll have 8 instead of 7. Okay, so make sure you don't look at this for the labeling. That's what I'm saying. So this is more of a collage where things are overlapping and touching each other. Okay. Then the other example that I have linked there is more of a list. Okay. I've got 2 on a line for the first 6. Again, this is the 7 elements instead of the 8 principles. But it could just literally be a list where it's all 8 of yours in a line. Okay. But you need to make sure that you label them. Okay. So if you look at the 7 elements here, this one that they used for color could also be shape It could also be form. It could be distance. Okay. You've got to label them though. Okay. So that I know what you're talking about. So those links are right here. So you can look at the examples. But all you're going to do so that I only have to open one document, okay, is you're going to start building right below. So you could use a free program, or if you've got a paid program, you could use that to make your collage and then post in the one, essentially one photograph of the end of it. Okay. I like to use Pixlr. It works really easily. You could do the formatting and make it a collage via the formatting right in the Google Doc. Okay. Or you could, again, just do the list right in the Google Doc. But all of it, your assignment's going to get turned in right here. Okay. If you make it in Pixlr or another program, you're going to paste that in as well. Okay. Does anyone have any questions then? You don't actually, so Rebecca asked a question if we have to put the difference that you see. You really only, you don't really have to analyze it that much. See how this is looks like a different texture, and she's labeled it texture. Okay. See how you can see the different shades for a value scale there. She's labeled it value scale. Okay. So you're just labeling it. Now, like this could be form as well, but you have to have a separate one for those your other principles. But this could be lots of different things. That's why I want you to label it so I know which one you're saying it is. Okay. It's going to be due Friday. So Friday at midnight. Did that answer your question, Rebecca? I am going to, yes, I'm going to play this video. He's like so amazing. So we'll see how this goes. If it's buffering too much, the link is actually at the top of this presentation. Okay, right here. And the presentation link is at the top of this sheet. Okay, it's right there for the presentation. So this is Titus Kaphar. I tell you, the only thing I do that my parents did when I was little is watch this show. That's the only thing that I still do that they used to do. Okay. It's amazing. But they have these amazing art clips. This one was just on this past Sunday, which is why we're even using his work, because I just love it. Oh, let me see. Okay, we'll see how this works.
Titus Kaphar is an artist whose work is very much of his time, which is to say, these times. With Rita Braver, we watch him at work.
A highly anticipated show by one of the country's hottest artists was finally going up at New York's Gagosian Gallery after a 6-month delay due to the coronavirus. But as the world kept turning, Titus Kaphar kept painting. You are doing this in the midst of all of the Black Lives Matter movement, but this is really something that you have been paying attention to for a long time.
Most definitely. I mean, the project's reflecting things that have been happening in our community for generations.
The paintings in this series depict Black mothers, but in many of the works, Kaphar has deliberately removed their children.
I think the paintings do speak to those different kinds of disappearance that happens to young Black children. That is the violence against them by police. That is being poisoned by the water in our communities, Flint. That is natural disasters that the country hasn't come up and really completely finished resolving and repairing yet.
In June, after the death of George Floyd, one of the works appeared on the cover of Time, which also published an essay by Kafar. What's been the response to the painting that was on the cover and also to the essay?
The only one that really matters to me is the response I got from a particular mother whose son had died and said, I've been looking for a symbol that represented the loss of my son, and I didn't find it till I saw this cover.
Kafar's work has long tackled underrepresentation of minorities in Western art through plays on classic paintings. Here he superimposes a black Jesus on a 19th century French work.
I wanted it to feel like an add-on. I didn't want it to feel as though it was always meant to be.
A lot of collectors.
Okay, guys, so back up a little bit. So the last one they showed, the work where they said that he superimposed black person's face onto Jesus. Okay, he superimposed it onto his own painting. Okay, this is a copy. He's made a copy of a French work, an old French work from the Renaissance, but he painted this. Okay, and then he purposely made this painting and purposely duct taped it on so that the contrast would be there. So it looked like somebody came in and did this. Okay. Does that make sense?
Feel like an add-on. I didn't want it to feel as though it was always meant to be.
A lot of collectors.
That's what he's talking there about, having it not feel like it was always meant to be there.
A MacArthur Genius Grant.
Those are true statements.
You almost seem disappointed by all of this.
No, I'm not.
But Kafar prefers to focus on the beginning of his story. A kid who grew up in a struggling family in Kalamazoo, Michigan. He graduated high school with a nearly failing grade point average. Then he met a young woman, now his wife, who challenged him to make something of himself. Do you think she just saw something in you that she knew you could really become someone?
I just wanted to date. That's really funny.
But he went to junior college, where he discovered art history and soon started painting. Eventually, he got a master's at the Yale School of Art in New Haven. He and his family now live nearby.
The artists, each in our program, have this private studio space where...
And Kafar is paying it forward. In a gritty New Haven neighborhood, he's convinced a list of private and public donors, including the Ford Foundation, to join him in co-founding Next Haven. And it's kind of a play on New Haven.
That's right. The idea has always been that wherever we go will become the new haven for artists.
Now in its second year, the program funds
Look at the scale of that
for
work.
emerging artists, as well as curators and high school apprentices. Kafar's friend,
We should go on a field
Jason
trip there.
Price, helps him run the operation.
It's a way to impact this community and the people that are in this community. And being a black man, having that sort of impact is important.
Titus, as you were coming up, did you ever have access to this kind of opportunity?
No. Nothing like this existed in the neighborhood I grew up in. I haven't really seen anything quite like this.
And many of us haven't seen anything quite like Kafar's work. Pieces like George Washington covered in a shredded copy of his own slave ledger. Kafar says it's meant to open a conversation.
We're all nuanced, complex. We all have good and evil in us. And that is what's happening inside of this painting for me.
And in all the art he creates, Titus Kafar says the meaning is truly in the mind of the beholder.
I want something for those people who are doing this work. It's that they would have a personal experience with it. I don't know that it's reasonable to hope for anything more.
Okay. Something that I did not